Hello? Okay. With so many ladies in the room, I think a stronger voice is needed, and hence the mic. Okay, thank you everyone for coming. Very nice to see this room of accomplished individuals, and very happy that you're all able to make it here. What we have today, as the banner says, is She and SME. SME is small and micro enterprises, and how we make this a more inclusive working culture. That is the takeaway that we should all have from this session. I can see Rob has already joined in. Hello, Rob. Good to see you. We would really love to meet you in person, but I understand, and thanks for taking our time off from Thanksgiving. And a big thank you and gratitude to you for being here.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. And sorry I couldn't be there in person. I would have loved to
to
be there, but it's just we had another event actually today because of Thanksgiving holiday, so I couldn't make it.
Okay. On behalf of CII and my personal behalf, let me once again reiterate and welcome all of you. In the glittering backdrop that Panjim has today of the International Film Festival, and if you just walk around, I'm sure you'll see a lot of celluloid stars. But let me also promise you that we have a stellar lineup of speakers today who will, I'm sure, outperform some of our stars on celluloid. Okay, so let's start off with a few things which I want to set as the backdrop of what we're doing here. This is the second conversation in a series which we call She and SME Inclusive Future Series. The first one was held in Ahmedabad in September, a couple of months earlier, and we got a very good response from members, as well as, like, I can see some of us are not really CII or IWIN members. Similar, very warm and very engaging response there too. So this is the next workshop in that series, and very glad that Goa has been chosen to take this initiative ahead. I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Rob Anderson, Cultural Affairs Officer, and Dosti House Chief, and Tejaswini Karalkar, both from the US Consulate Mumbai, for their support and guidance. While it would be great to have you in person, I understand that there are other commitments due to which you are able to join with us virtually. Thank you, Tejaswini, for joining. The recently concluded G20 summit, had a lineup of a number of sustainable development goals, better known as SDGs. There were 17 in that lineup, covering the entire gamut of issues that the planet has to work on to make it a more equitable, more livable planet for us and the future generations that are to come. So the SDG 5 was on gender equality, which just shows that how important and how imperative it is to get that conversation at the center of all the economic decisions that not only organizations do, but also countries take ahead and want to have positive outcomes. So that explains the She part of it and the SME part of it. Let me quote from a Forbes report of this month itself. 96% of the industrial units in the Indian economy belong to small companies. They account for 33% of India's GDP and 42% of our exports and 40% of the nation's overall industrial production, which clearly shows that the next leap, which the Prime Minister also wants us to be a $5 trillion economy, will come from this segment. And if this segment has to thrive and grow and make it comfortable for the employees and other stakeholders to engage in, then we have to see that the gender equality and workplace practices are comfortable for everyone, which I mean employee and employer. So it's not a one-way street really. And today the lineup that we have, I'm sure we'll go back richer, knowing the experiences that they will share and the learning that each of them have come here to share with us. Okay. CII, in partnership with the US Consulate, has conducted a sample survey to understand what women think about workplace practices, about their career, about job opportunities, employment opportunities. And analyzing the results of that sample size, let me quickly enumerate some of the key focus areas that have come from that survey. There is a tremendous lack of awareness among the employees as to what constitutes workplace harassment, or if there are in any way redressal and grievance mechanisms in organizations to address any such harassment if it does happen. 40% of the respondents of that survey said that their company did have a gender inclusive workplace policy, but around 45% were not even sure if their organization had such a policy. So we know that the larger organizations have dedicated resources in terms of manpower as well as finances to address this in a very, very structured manner, whereas the SMEs, because they're always, I think, hustling around for the next growth, will need that support. And I'm very happy to let you all know that CII is right here. If you need any guidance from a the CII secretariat, or even from the other chapters who have leading practices that they can share with any one of you, will be very happy to guide you along that journey. With this, I will just request Rob to kindly share with us his speech here, please.
Hi. Yeah,
Hello.
Sonia, am I audible?
Yes. Yes, please.
All right. Hey, good. Okay. Thanks. No, yeah, and sorry not to be there. I would love to be. I mean, there's no place I think I love more in India than Goa, and especially this time of year. You know, it's always great to be there. So, and I would have loved to join you, but you know, hopefully in the near future, another trip to the city. And you know, you guys, just Sonia and CII, you just do such great work, and you have such a great network, and you know, the organizations that you're able to pull together and to put a program like this together, I mean, just speaks to the level of, you know, of your work. And I think the close collaboration that we have, not just with the U.S. consulate in Mumbai, but, you know, across India with the embassy and sort of all over the country. I see Swati there too, from the Western region, who, you know, we work most closely with out of the consulate in Mumbai, but, you know, always happy to partner with CII, and, you know, and just your commitment to this issue and to, you know, women's empowerment and just women in the workforce, and sort of making sure that policies and procedures are in place to lift women up through the ranks. I think that just speaks to the, you know, the level of your work at CII. For us at the consulate, that's one of the things that our consul general, indeed our ambassador, I mean, I think is this issue of women's, what do we call it? Women's economic empowerment. You know, sort of the role of women in the formal economy has sort of risen to one of our top priorities, and it comes up all the time. And I think the you know, the bilateral relationship between the U.S. and India right now is at an all-time high. And you see, you know, our president was recently here for the G20, which Sonia recently mentioned, and you know, the prime minister has been in Washington, and there's a sort of regular dialogue at the very highest levels between the two countries. And I think a recognition that this is really India and America. This is kind of our time, and this is our time to grow together. And we're going to depend on each other, and we're going to grow together. And you know, we've got resources to share. We've got shared goals when it comes to environmental sustainability, and we have technology and innovation. We've got students traveling both ways, but especially from India to the United States. So I think the time is now. But I also hear the leaders talk about you know, realizing the full potential of our relationship also means that we have to have, you know, full participation of all of our citizens. And that means, you know, having women also represented in the workforce at the highest levels of our, you know, of our government. And when you see India's trajectory and just the, you know, the economic growth that you see now, and the level of the education gains, it's sort of an anomaly when you see workforce participation for women falling, and at a low, you know, at a level that's, you know, I mean, by some estimates at maybe 20%. Now, I know there are a lot of other, you know, women contributing in other ways, and there's, you know, the way we measure the formal economy is also up for debate. But I think it is something that we're, you know, paying attention to also within our own ranks, and within the, you know, within our embassies, within the U.S. government. Sort of, you know, we're hiring our diplomats sort of at parity, where we're hiring equal numbers of men and women. But if you see the majority of our ambassadors, the majority of our assistant secretaries and undersecretaries and leaders, it's predominantly men. And so I think there's a recognition that all along we've got to find ways to sort of address this along the full career cycle. And I grew up in a small business, and I know that's hard when you're in a small and sort of medium-sized company. I mean, how do you even count employees? I mean, I was an employee, I wasn't even paid half the time until I was at an age where I could receive, money from my, from my parents. But we were all part of the business, and my mother was there. So it was my father's business, but we were all there. And but I do think that as the business, and as I watched my own, my father's business grow to a point where he did have to hire and was sort of had to take on new employees. I think, there was just never even a thought about a formal policies and procedures that would establish hiring mechanisms that were fair and equal and inclusive, and until much later in his business cycle. And as you said, Sonia, earlier, I mean, small businesses are the backbone of our economy. So we talk about the sort of the glitz and glamour of Bollywood and the big multinationals and entertainment, but small businesses are driving all of the growth. They're creating the vast majority of jobs in our countries, and that's not going to change. And I think especially between the United States and India, that's where I see a lot of opportunities for collaboration. So this program, I think, is just perfectly timed to really take on board this, to do some internal scanning and sort of looking at your company and seeing if, where are you on, with inclusive hiring policies and practices? Because the more with ESG requirements and, just generally a lot of multinationals are looking for inclusive companies in their supply chains, and they're going to start. They're looking closely at the number of women, of diversity and inclusion, DEIA policies that are in the company, environmental, sustainability. So I think it's really a good chance to sort of do some internal scanning and then look at ways that you can put these policies and procedures in place. So that's for us at the consulate. We're happy to help you in this regard in any way we can. Programs like this. If we've done mentoring programs, and we're happy to do that often. If just connecting people, sometimes we have that ability as a consulate, and to bring over. We've got mentors in the United States, for instance, working with mentees here and kind of doing best practices sharing. So we're happy to do those kind of programs to keep this going, beyond just the discussion here. But I just think it's such an important program, and I'm so happy to see the turnout. I'm so happy to see everyone there, taking this so seriously. And I really wish I was there. I look forward to meeting you in person, and hopefully on another trip to Goa in the near future. But best of luck, and thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Thank you for all your words. And I'm sure we will have more opportunities where we will be able to meet in person in Goa. You're most welcome anytime. It's beautiful all around the year, actually, not just now. We have our own glitter. Thank you very much for sharing also your personal stories about how I believe you're working in your parents' business, and how you have seen firsthand the challenges that SMEs face in trying to bring a lot of this workplace practices which I've said are more easier to do for a large organizations. Thanks, of course, for your help. And when you said that the US consulate would help in like a mentor-mentee relationship, which I'm sure as we go ahead, we would have a lot of our members and audience here take up on that offer. So thank you so much for your words. Let's move on to the next speaker. But before that, I've realized that in my excitement, I did not introduce any of the speakers. Okay, I'm really sorry about that. We have with us Dr. Pratiksha Khalap. She's the chair of Young Indians Goa, and she's also the director of INV Hotels Private Limited. Then we have Pallavi Desai, who is the AGM Human Resources from Persistent Systems, again from Verna, Goa. Ashlesha Khandeparkar, she's the country head and senior director, corporate affairs and government affairs from Oracle, who's come all the way from Bangalore to share her experiences and learnings with us. Swati Salgaonkar, the Deputy Chair of CII Western Region and the immediate past President of CII Goa. Needs no introduction here, I'm sure. And we also have Akansha Kumar, who's the North America Chair for CII Delhi. Thank you so much for all of you for being here today and sharing your words of wisdom with us. May I request Pratiksha to kindly take the stage ahead?
Hello. Good evening, everybody. To all the dignitaries on the desk and to Rob, a very good evening. So we are here especially to address the topic on persistent gender gaps, and I'm going to actually address the very basic issues that all of us here, majority in this auditorium or the hall, we are all ladies, and what we usually go through, or what are the common issues or the basic issues. I'm going to actually address those, and we have rest of the other experts who would further on might be discuss the solutions of how we could go about addressing these persistent gender gaps. So we have seen women in leadership positions have made significant progress in the recent years, breaking through traditional barriers and challenging gender norms. From corporate leadership to politics and entrepreneurship, we have shattered the glass ceiling and become role models for aspiring female leaders. In recent decades, the landscape of leadership has gone a remarkable transformation, and that's how women have broken the traditional barriers to ascend to positions of power and influence. We have inspiring leaders here today amongst us, and we will hear their journey in leadership, highlighting their triumphs, the challenges they face, and the profound impact they are making on the future of our society and organizations in the sessions to come. However, despite these achievements, women continue to face challenges like unequal pay, limited representation in boardrooms, and societal expectations. The gender leadership gap highlights the need for ongoing efforts to dismantle systemic barriers, and that is what we all are here to discuss today. We still see some more number of men in all industries. I feel there are multiple reasons for this. One of which is an internal conflict that most of us experience as women. We tend to bow down to the expectations of our families and limit ourselves to certain professions only. By default, many or majority Indian women are trained at home to cook and do other daily chores, and this has created a mindset that women are the only ones who can be assigned these jobs. Secondly, we have again a men-dominated Indian society. We have to agree with that, to that fact. The head of the house is still a male. All the priests that we see are still men, etc. So the mindset of men-centric society needs to go a major shift as well. With regards to SMEs, that today's topic, we need to devise policies that can help attract and retain female staff. Some of which are, the work from home practice post-COVID works the best for women, as they can take care of, multiple, they can multitask, basically take care of the houses and work efficiently as well. Again, having a daycare center at workplace or a creche for kids of employees can be a significant change, which every organization can undertake. I don't know how many in Goa have this kind of a facility, but out there outside Goa, most of the MNCs are now moving towards having providing their women employees these features. Also today, with regards to the jobs in government employees, especially in India, we have policies in place on reservation for the disabled and for other minority sector. For just to give an example or share an example, for our educational institute, if we have a job opening, we seek guidance from the social welfare department. We need to approach them and take the roster, and as per that they advise to keep the environment and atmosphere inclusive. They advise us whether this job post should be for a disabled or should be for a particular minority sect. We know that that happens for all the government organizations and government institutions. I feel on similar lines, we could also have something like a similar guideline or a law in place enforcing a certain percentage of reservation for women employees. Like say today we have an organization. If we make it like a mandate that you have 20% at least of the staff as women employees, I'm sure everybody will create that opportunity for a lady. Of course, this is a debatable topic and there are pros and cons to this. I leave that to the experts to decide and discuss, but something on similar lines can be done. When, like, for an example, again, another example about India and Goa, we had the 30% women reservation introduced with when it came to panchayat elections and municipality elections. When that came into force, all the men, did sort of that they made their wives or their sisters or their mothers contest on their behalf. Everybody was skeptical about this entire change, but we have seen women outperform the men when it comes to administration. We've seen they've really shown or proved that they perform tasks and take on leadership once considered only men centric. So thus, in my opinion, putting up some guidelines of this sort in place could be of great help. But this sounds very coercive. We cannot again force industries to have only women employees or put this. But I think government can also alternatively which have say maximum women employee inclusive and take the measures to have more lady members in industry, and this might encourage employers to create more opportunities for women, because if you see, we have taken almost 30 years for to get this 30% reservation with regards to panchayat elections and help women take the leadership roles. It has taken India 30 years to come to that. So I think we still have a long way to go. Of course, having said all this, basic education and skill development again is pivotal. We cannot expect reforms without education. Mentorship programs are necessary. Women's safety also is a concern most of the ladies might experience. We see the ladies being skeptical about staying in office till late hours or work in the night shift. Women's safety and hygiene should be of utmost importance in all the industries, so as to encourage ladies to step out of their comfort zone and work. Now, today we see again women outperform in every sector, but gender gap is evident and there is still a long way to go to bridge this gap. We understand the difference today. If I may ask, how many here, now this is in audience full of ladies and women leaders, but otherwise if we step out and we ask how many do we have here as women founders or women CEOs, representing their industries have come here today, it is majority. We see that the domination is always by men. In CII we have industries and majority are all male representatives. So there are a handful who are here also, but then the support is from the family. We also have family run businesses and then women step out. So we need to change that entire mindset. So it is very motivating right now for me here to see organizations like CII, IWN, YI take steps to bridge the gap. Workshops like these are eye-openers and also need of the hour to create awareness about the steps that can be undertaken to make the workplace more inclusive. I would like to congratulate IWN, CII for having, conducted this kind of gratitude for having invited me to address the Women CII Western Region Chair here. We have a lady YI chair here. We also have IWN chair here, and we have future leaders who have our ladies in YI. In the EC also, we have majority lady members representing. So organizations like I think CI and IWN promote women in leadership by implementing policies and practices, offering mentorship and leadership development programs, and creating a culture of inclusivity and diversity. Mentorship programs are, like Rob also mentioned, he is happy to help us. And I feel mentorship programs and networks play a crucial role in nurturing women leaders. And established female leaders also have a responsibility to mentor other ladies. so that, we provide them the support to the next generation, fostering a culture of empowerment and guidance. Would just like to end by stating, we know gender gap is real. Women do face inequality, abuse, and difficulties at workplace. And having given all the earlier suggestions, we need to bring about an entire shift in the mindset and begin this change from home. We need to educate our children on equality, treat the men and women equally, and not segregate task or cause as per gender. When we bring this whole shift in the mindset at home, we will be able to imbibe the same at our workplaces as well. We still have a long way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratiksha, especially on throwing light right from our homes to what is happening all around in the corporate world, changing landscape of organizations, especially post-COVID, with work from home being a norm, which worked well for a while, and then the glamour of that all wore off, and now it's not so good sometimes. So all that, thank you for sharing your views and what could be done in terms of women reservation, or in terms of how the government can appreciate and encourage women leaders, also about mentorship. We do have a lot of women leaders here. I'm sure some of them in some way or the other do encourage and mentor the next generation to come. When you're talking, I was just asking Akansha, about CII and Iwin. And CII is let me put my specs now. 128. Right. Is a 128-year-old organization, right? It is elder to our country's independence. And Iwin, which is the women part of it, is a mere decade old. 10 years. I think those numbers itself show that how much little has been done, but also gives us an opportunity individually and all of us here, that how much more we can do so that this gap doesn't take those many years to come closer. Right. So I'm sure CII, with the growth of IWIN that we have across the 5 zones of the country and different city and state chapters, both CII and IWIN, along with YI, which is Young Indians, we are working. This workshop is a result of some such initiatives that we take. Now, I would request Pallavi Desai from Persistent Systems to speak on some of the corporate practices, maybe something that she is comfortable to share in the public domain, some standards or rules, regulations, anything that make a gender inclusive workplace. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of learning from that. Pallavi?
Yeah, thank you so much. May I request the slides on the deck, please? Thank you. Right, so good evening to one and all today, and also a great big hello to Rob, who's joined us on today's session, especially on Thanksgiving Day. It's really fortunate for him to take out time and be amongst us on a festive season. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the CII and the IWN chapters for inviting me here today. It's really a great opportunity to be amongst this August gathering of women entrepreneurs and people from corporates. I'm very excited to have a evening of learning and exchanging of ideas, because I think finally that's what we all are here for. When we are available for such gatherings and for such meetings, I think the main purpose would be to look at how we can learn from one another and what are the findings and what are the exchange of ideas that we can have. So with the past addresses by Rob and Pratiksha, it really brings me to believe that wow, as corporate industry and as corporate India, we do have a very huge responsibility to play. And many amongst you today, I believe, are entrepreneurs, are running some businesses, or perhaps HR professionals. Just a show of hands, if that would help me. How many of you are entrepreneurs running your own business here today? Great. Thank you. Thanks. So I repeat what I said. I mean, we are in a very elite audience today because we have professionals, people who are in a position of power and, really able to make a difference in the organizations or the groups or the institutions that you really represent. So today, my discourse would basically be to share about some of the practices that we follow in persistent systems. And I'll be very honest, like I said, we have a huge responsibility as corporate India to look at different practices, different policies, different infrastructural arrangements to make equity a part of the workforce. So a long way to go, but this is, an attempt to share some of the things that we have been able to achieve. And I'm hoping that maybe, we are able to influence or share some of the practices to some of you to put them across in your organizations. And I do understand that with setups which are of slightly smaller scale, maybe some of these ideas may seem a little bit too huge or magnificent, but we'll also talk about some of the things that we started off as a smaller organization. So while we have been in existence for 30 years, and being in a privileged set of economy like an IT setup, well-educated staff and a number of people who are either engineers or MTech, so very, very well-educated staff. So we've been privileged, but as a practice, I would say we always had inclusive practices, inclusive policies. There's a lot more focus on it in the last 3 to 4 years. And this focus is very, very, market driven. It's very industry driven. I think it's very the need of the hour, if you were to say. So there's a quote. Let me start by saying, that, no man is an island, right? And in this session, I think we should say no man or woman is an island, right? The reason being that if anyone, be it in a medical profession, be it in sports, in talent in any kind of industry, whether it's celebrities or the film stars, everyone needs support, right? I think you cannot make it without the support of your parents, your friends, your colleagues, your teachers, your community, your family, and of course, the corporate workplace that you work in. So each of us really does play a role. And I really liked what Dr. Pratiksha mentioned a little earlier, that, it's one part that, the workforce as an employer, we might need to take up practices and policies. But there's a bigger difference that we need to really put into place by making our families aware of the expectations, our support systems aware of the expectations, and also maybe rearing our next generation to be much more open to inclusive and equitable practices. Because finally, it's not just, corporate India which can make or break. There's a whole lot of other people who are involved in the entire process. So with that, let me, go ahead with the next slides. I need to point it. No. So could someone help me from the... Yeah, thank you. This is good. All right, thank you so much. So that's Murphy's Law. Things go wrong when they don't need to go wrong. But in any case, let's move on. So as I mentioned, as an organization, 30 years in existence and an elite organization, today a global workforce, some of the numbers and statistics that we can talk about today, which we have been able to build upon, are encouraging, but let's face it, we can do much better. So this is what we have in terms of, inclusivity, presence in our board membership, in our women directors. We have 2 women directors. We have 30% of our global staff who are women. And finally, also as senior management, we can look at around 11%. So pretty encouraging stats. As I said, maybe this is something which is also favorable in my ecosystem or our ecosystem, which is an IT space. If you could compare to maybe some other organizations or another ecosystem, may not be as easy to, proudly boast about. Very much aware of that fact. Let's be realistic because, even though organizations have been investing in these kind of activities, it takes time and effort. And more than that, a leadership buy-in. So when I mentioned a little earlier that, the last 3 to 4 years have been really dynamic for the DEIB space. And when I say DEIB, I do include not just gender equity. I know today's forum is about gender equity, but I think as professionals today and as corporate India today, the focus is all about, bringing diversity, inclusion, equity across all communities. So the space and the landscape, the portrait is much larger. It's not only about women. It's also about getting in communities, ethnicity, maybe people with sexual preferences, people with disability. So how do you make and build a workforce which is really inclusive in the true sense? That is something that we are really seeking to achieve in today's world. And I think across industry, that enlightenment has really happened where that, unless you have the right set of workforce available with you, you're going to not really survive to the next generation, because that's really what you need to be along with. You have to be with the times. You have to be with what the generation is. You have to be with what the workforce is offering you. So with studies and with time, I think a lot of our leadership, not just in the organization, but across key business leaders have really understood the need of having an inclusive workforce. And, the reasons being having people more productive, having higher level of engagement, having more innovation on the cards, having a more holistic picture. So this is, well attested and well recognized in scientific research papers that the more you have inclusivity and diversity in your workforce, you're more bound to be productive and, having a healthy work environment. So finally, it's not just, doing all these practices and policies for the goodness of our heart. It is obviously, the way that business is going to proceed. So we need to survive. And if we need to survive and we need to thrive, we have to thrive with our workforce. So one of the fundamental changes which has occurred over the last 4 to 5 years, as I can say, is that organizations are truly believing in investing in these kind of practices. And I can also talk about our story over here, that we have definitely seen much more focus, not just from, HR, because that becomes, the one entity which is always driving employee-centric practices. But this is now an agenda for the business leaders. So, ESG, as we call it today, is a corporate agenda for any public listed company. We are talking about it in our annual reports. We are publishing facts and figures publicly. And there are core teams who are made responsible to actually drive this agenda along with the leadership. So business leaders also are carrying specific goals. I mean, it's not going to happen unless it's a priority for, the leader or for the business or for the production, right? So if the sales and the production and the delivery teams are always running after the revenue and the bottom line and the, top line, then that's what they're going to focus on, right? But unless you really have that on the goal sheet, unless you have that as a business partner, that's not going to get the importance that it's looking for. So over the years, like I said, ESG has incorporated such practices that corporate organizations are talking about their sustainable goals. They're talking about it publicly. And hence it's becoming very, very transparent, because once you put it on pen and paper, you're definitely going to work towards it, right? So may I request to move to the next slide? I will just try this once more, but yeah, but it just skipped one slide. All right. It's working now. Thank you. So let's talk about some of the practices. And this is going to be, slightly maybe some of the takeaways that I hope that people in this session can really go about with. So I've got 4 segments really, if I was to call out, whether we are talking about policies, career-related advancements, wellness, and then celebration of our practices or celebration of our activities. So if I was to talk about policies and practices a little bit more in detail, and I'll spend a little more time on this slide because I'm sure that there could be some takeaways and learnings for people in the room. So one of the key things, and I heard Dr. Pratiksha also talk about it, how do you feel safe in your workforce, right? How do you feel safe working late beyond, 6 p.m., 7 p.m.? And that's important. So what are the practices that we have been able to incorporate it across the last few sessions are, of course, ICC, the POSH Act applies for all of us. So having, internal complaints committees in all of our locations, in all of our centers is imperative. Making them trained on how to deal with such sessions and how to deal with incidents is really important. Apart from that, which I think everybody is probably in some way or the other, incorporating in their practices, in their organization, we've also incorporated what we call as a whistleblower policy, which means anyone can really highlight some difficulty, problems, or wrongdoings anonymously to the highest authorities, which is even the board. So without giving out your identity, you can definitely give out, information that there is some wrongdoing happening, either, in terms of financial or, the way that people are being handled. Any kind of practice can be reported through the whistleblower committee. And since it goes to the board, then definitely, you have an investigation and you need to make sure that the right solutions are brought to the table. Apart from that, from the security aspects, we also offer what we call as late stay facilities to employees. And this is applicable specifically for women because at times people may worry about, staying beyond 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. at office place. So the practice that we adopt, and maybe some of you could address that as well, is a cab is definitely arranged for the women who's staying beyond 7 o'clock. And apart from that, we are able to offer a security guard to accompany the individual. And if the person is driving, because there are a lot of people who now drive themselves, and they don't want the security, neither they want, the cab. We just ask the person also to sign out. And then when they reach their residence, just to give a call back. So that's just a check-in. I mean, you can't really do much more than that, but that's a check-in. So if you know in 45 minutes, 1 hour, you don't get a call back, then probably the security office needs to, alert someone or somebody and try to inform individuals about the absence. So some of these practices, we've been doing since the time we were smaller. And I think any of you can really pick up these practices because they're quite open and easy to do. In terms of benefits, well, yeah, there's some of the things that we offer for employees are practices like flexible working, which I think the pandemic and COVID really helped or eased out in terms of, happening for a lot of people. So flexible working, extended maternity leaves. So obviously we have to abide with what the law says. But if individuals want to extend their leaves for, say, 3 to 6 months, it's considered an extended leave, and you are allowed and permitted to take those type of leaves as needed be. We also offer parental leave, which proves a point that, hey, it's not just the mom who needs to be home. It also needs the father to be an equal partner. So parental leave has also been offered. Adoption leave has been, I think, one of the practices that the government also lays out. So that's mandatory. In-house doctors, counselors are are facilities that we have been trying to put into place for most of our facilities. If you don't have that type of a setup, maybe you can just have a tie-up with a consultant, tie-up with a doctor, because at times when you're in the office for, say, 8 to 9 hours, when do you get the time to take an appointment, right? And if you have those aches and pains and you just want to discuss with a doctor, this really helps. So having a doctor in the facility is advantageous. Of course, it's not all the time, but there are specific dates and slots. And with the rising, stress levels, counselors are also very much in demand. So you can do it in person. If you have a stigma around it, you can call the individual, you can have a telephone conversation as well. So this again is something which, some of you might want to kind of consider. Apart from that, we also offer insurance covers. Insurance covers are very standard in most of the larger MNCs. A few things that we go out of the way to offer is for women staff, where you can cover your parents as a part, despite apart from your spouse and your children. You can also cover your parents. You can cover your parents-in-law. You can choose between them. We've incorporated also a practice that you can cover if you have a same-sex partner. So that's also been permitted. So we're kind of designing new inclusions as per the need of the employees. In terms of infra and setups, well, we are still evolving. I can't say very proudly that our organization is completely, friendly for persons with disability. For women, of course, there are things that we have been able to do, but there are things that we are investing in gradually in terms of wheelchair enablement, ramps, being able to have signages in for visually impaired people, having setups like a restroom for people who might need to take breaks has been, advantageous and has been consumed quite a lot. We've also had things in the area of for women. I mean, it's very much needed, right? There are many days where a person needs a sanitary pad and it's just nowhere in sight. So vending machines, which you can, procure a pad when you require it, has been very useful. Hygiene units, because that's one of the problems of disposing of, all the waste which comes of the, the cycles. You have also got hygiene machines which help you to, consume this in a very clean and, a very, very hygienic manner. So these are some of the investments that we have done of late. And as I mentioned, this is just a start. There's a lot more that we really need to go about. Some of these practices, do come with a cost, but I'd like to spend more time on, the governance and the org intent that we've been really focusing on. So governance, when I say, is, when the intent is available to ensure that you are having an inclusive workforce or an equitable workforce, how can you do that, right? So I'm sure all of you have got employees who go on a maternity leave and they come back. Is it easy for them to come back? No, not so much. And I think some of us might have gone through that episode where you're thinking whether you should quit your job, whether you should give up, whether you should take a break. So we ensure that a lot of these scenarios are preempted. We have counselors and individuals and HR people who talk to individuals to ensure that they're not giving up on their professions. We try to make it easier for a person to return back to office, because at times you're unsure whether, oh, have I forgotten all my skills? It doesn't really happen, but then there's that confidence boost that you need when you need to get back to office. You need to speak to someone and say that, how do I leave my child alone for 8 to 9 hours? Is it okay? Am I doing the right thing? So those kind of conversations happen very regularly. We also look at data to ensure that, women returning from their maternity leaves are not deprived of promotions. They're not deprived of the, fair increments that they're supposed to get, or any other, long service benefits, which they might think they will lose off. So this has been happening for a long time. And as I said, some of the practices we've incorporated at cost, but these are the things that we have been doing for, age-old years. And it's important that you really incorporate these practices to ensure that, when there are promotion decisions happening, that the men in the room or the group which is deciding the promotions is not discounting some of the individuals who might be deserving the promotion. Right. So that's one of the things that you can take home, as an activity for any of your groups. If I was to spend time on the career elements, we've done quite a lot of things in making our organization more inclusive, boosting women through programs like Wings, Aspire, and the Kiran Girls, different programs really. Wings is a exercise for leadership development. So 3 to 4 months of getting our high potential women into a, grueling exercise, putting them right on the, table and preparing them for the next roles. Aspire is a program where, I'm sorry, I mixed it up. So Wings is a program actually, which is getting people back to work. So getting individuals, who have taken a career break, we invest in at least 30 to 40 people joining us through such kind of programs. And what do we do with them? Make sure that they go through refresher courses. They have, touch points with all the industry experts, talk to people, spend time with them for 6 to 8 months, and then gradually bring them into the ecosystem. So that's been pretty successful. And we've seen that individuals who join us are much, much more effective on their job roles. And of course, the engagement and the retention aspects is much, much higher because they really show gratitude in terms of the time that we've been able to invest with them. The last one being Kiran Girls. So this is something which we do as a part of our CSR. We sponsor certain girl children from the engineering colleges, and wherever there is a need, we are able to really help them in their educational fees. On the wellness side, well, there's a lot that we can talk about. I think wellness is something which all companies are talking about gradually uh, across the board. So be it in the health domain, be it in spiritual domain, meditation, yoga, physical activities, hobby clubs, communities. There's a lot that we've been able to do because it's a very young and vibrant workforce. So getting people involved in things like Zumba or, basketball or cricket, box cricket, things which really excite individuals is the need of the hour. And along with that, when we talk about wellness, we also have been investing in life stages. So what do you mean by life stages? So we go through this multiple times, right? So people struggling with parenting needs, dealing with teenage children, dealing with special needs children. How do you kind of, have your ideas set? Do you need to talk to people? Do you need to discuss with people who have gone through it? So have experts to talk about this. And then in that networking session, also exchange stories of how they've been able to cope with that. We've also been talking about career counseling for their children. So I think now that's a big deal that, what will my child become when he grows up or she grows up? So women take a lot of stress around this. And we've seen that maybe giving them the right kind of feeds at that point of time helps in sharing ideas. People going through perimenopause and menopausal areas, emotional outbreaks, difficulties, how do you deal with that? So besides having the, the health part of it, the doctor's part of it, you just need to talk to people. So these kind of forums really help. And I think, like I said, these practices are not very cost high. You can do them by talking with your friends and family and getting the right kind of resource people. And probably you see a lot of outcomes and you see a lot of, de-stressing sessions happening through this. Lastly, how do we celebrate our women force? Well, there's a group called Prerna, which is basically our women's community, so like an IWN. So it's like a women's community in the organization. It's pretty successful, so much so that sometimes we have our men colleagues coming up and saying, yeah, you guys have all the fun and you all don't have separate sessions for us. So that's really unfair. So I get a lot of brickbacks around that, yeah, you all have Women's Day, you all have special programs. What about us? So, right. So Prerna is a very specific program. We'll talk about it a little later. I'll not spend time here. And then we also have, celebrating these champions. So there are people who really, walk the talk. There are leaders, there are managers, there are individuals who really vouch for their women force. They take out pains. They really take efforts to make sure they're mentoring their individuals, helping them in their needs. So how do you recognize these individuals and how do you recognize them at a highest pedal still? So we reward them through quarterly champions exercise. We reward them in the annual awards, which is a very elite and glittery kind of event where we're talking about all these aspects. So this is about the policies and practices. And I think some of the things definitely can be used by some of you in organizations and setups. I made a mention of Aspire. So Aspire is our leadership development program. We've been investing in this for at least 4 years now. And every year we have a batch of, high potential individuals who are part of this program. We focus on activities like, discovering your own self, setting goals for yourself in terms of career, excellence in branding, because, the way that you actually conduct yourself and your personal brand, these aspects really matter. How do you have impactful work interactions? How do you get, a seat on the table? How do you ensure that your point is heard? How are you not bowing down to the needs of others and also, getting the your point of view really discussed and having a weight in the team, how do you have a work-life balance? So these are 4 elements of this entire Aspire program. And as you can see, very serious stuff. This is not about, just sharing and caring. It's really about getting individuals to move to the next role and, take the next step in the corporate ladder. And takes a lot of serious action. So the gentleman in the middle is Dr. Anand Deshpande, our founder. So a lot of our leaders really participate in these programs. A little bit about Prerna. Again, I'd like to repeat, in a lot of corporate setups, when we do Women's Day, when we do, women's communities, I feel very uncomfortable when it's only about, cooking competitions and sharing, art and craft. I personally, I'm sorry if I'm hurting feelings, but I personally feel very, very uncomfortable about that. Through Prerna, I think we've made that movement gradually. While it's more fun to have a cake cutting and fun and games, and it's required, of course, to de-stress, but we should also focus on the serious matters, which, in a workforce, we should really concentrate on. So the objective here, obviously, is, to enrich people, get people to be empowered, get them to network amongst one another. And as a part of this, set your career goals and strive to do something more than what you are really at. So in a nutshell, this is a forum which helps to make people think about grabbing more and provides them the right ecosystem and the space to move around that. This is a framework which we have now designed. If you can look at steps in the Prerna setup, 4 stages of a career span or a career environment. So step 1 is 0 to 5, where you're building your foothold. You need to learn, you need to build expertise. Step 2 is possibly when you want to get out of the stagnancy that you are, unlock, get out of your comfort zone. Step 3 is when you're maybe 20 to 30 years, you have got the expertise that you need to, but then you want to share, mentor other individuals. And step 4 is when you're like 30 plus of experience and you're like a role model and you'd want to share and you want to guide and you'd want to also network with individuals across. So we've kind of targeted different segments. And as you can see, it's around your career journey. It's not about, different phases of your personal life, but it's around your career journey. So reiterating, let's, focus in our work force and in our work environments and making investments in the right direction, getting women equipped to take up larger roles, larger activities, and empowering them to do that is more the need of the hour than anything else. A few snapshots. I'll not talk too much about it.
Hello. We really like to hear what you're saying, but I mean, if you could wrap up in the next 5 to 7 minutes.
Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect.
And maybe we can share the presentation later on if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sorry to do this.
No, not at all. I think the next couple of slides are actually breeze throughs because there were a few other ones that we wanted to talk a little bit more on. So Women in Tech series, like I said, let's have sessions where individuals really get to learn about things and learn from experts. I talked about International Women's Day celebrations. It's not just about fun. It's about making sure that you have the right talks from experts and inspiring individuals where you can take home specific agendas and specific ideas. My last, I would say spice for the day is Duopoly, which is one of the latest things that we've just recently launched about 6 months ago. A very aspirational exercise that we have gotten into, which tries to create awareness amongst employees. So as people, we agree that it's not just an HR agenda or a business agenda. It's about everyone understanding that you need to contribute. So this is a gamified version of how you need to be aware of unconscious biases. How can you adopt fair and equitable practices? And it's done through a very gamified way. So you roll the dice and then you answer certain questions. You go right and wrong. And that's probably very apt for our workforce because, it's a very young and vibrant generation. I think this is one of the major challenges, making people aware of these practices and making them adopt it. And hence, we made it a little bit more interesting by introducing Duopoly. Last but not the least, I think this was our, quick attempt to share some of the practices that we follow. As I said, there's a lot more that we can do as corporate India and maybe, as a representative of Persistent. In this forum, how can we collaborate? A few, food for thought, and maybe we can leave it for Q&A later. Areas that we would really love to hear from the CII, our industry, benchmarking, Compedia, making sure that we have community stories which are shared, making sure that we have, upskilling for women, different kind of programs, so which we can also collaborate with the CII in a fruitful manner. So I think this is my last, statement, where I'd love to see a lot more collaboration between the CII and the industry, which will obviously work in the favor of the overall charter of gender equity, and it also makes it very fruitful for both the parties. So thank you so much. And Sonia, apologies for overshooting on time. Thank you so much for your patient listening.
Thank you, Pallavi. I'm really glad that firstly you opened it not only to gender, but you included diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, which really is all needed together to make more inclusive workflows. I must applaud you for the honesty in which you shared some of the challenges that you faced, whether it is in terms of not having adequate infra, as you mentioned. And I also must thank you for being so honest with sharing your numbers, which are very encouraging, as you said, rightly so. I can understand the granularity in which you have explained in detail about the various practices will go a long way, especially in an SME setup, because like some of the things that you mentioned, for example, like a quick callback that the lady can do when she reaches somewhere safely is not something that requires a large setup to inculcate, but it's like a mindset that if the owner and the right line manager pushes in, then that's something that can easily be done. So thank you. And I'm sure the key takeaways that we have from you, including what you said about personal branding, that is also something that we at IWIN do, and in some of our other chapters where we have collaborated with some corporates, and we run an entire course for personal branding for women leaders. Happy to know that all this initiatives and practices are not just a checkbox to be ticked, but something, like you rightly said, not for the goodness of heart, but because it definitely gives you productivity, and then finally it's a corporate, right? You have to make a bottom line really be impressive and positive. So thanks for all that you have said and shared with us, and let us move on to the next esteemed speaker that we have, who is Ashlesha Khandeparkar. She's the country head and senior director, corporate affairs and government affairs from Oracle. She's visiting us from Bangalore. So Ashlesha, over to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonia. So, good evening, everyone. Really happy to be here in Goa. I would like to say a good evening to Swati Salgaonkar, Deputy Chairperson, CII Western Region, and President, VM Salgaonkar and Brothers Private Limited. Mr. Rob Anderson, Public Diplomacy Officer, U.S. Consulate, Mumbai. Ms. Pallavi Desai, AGM Human Resources Persistent Systems Limited, Dr. Pratik Shah, Chair, Young Indians, Ms. Sonia Kunklekar, Chairperson IWN Goa, and of course, Akanksha Ballat from CII. So here, I would like to just, for the record, state that I'm not a HR person. I look after corporate affairs and public policies for Oracle in India. And my presentation will be not on the issues or HR issues, but it will be the initiatives which Oracle Corporation has taken in globally as well as in India. And I'm going to share some of our best practices with you. So I start with diversity and So the importance of diversity and inclusion at Oracle It's building a thriving workplace for innovation, productivity, and competitiveness. The first and most important asset in any organization is human capital. And that is why the discussions that we are having today are so important and so crucial for the growth of the company, because it involves human capital. The positive effects and benefits of sustaining a diverse and inclusive culture are many, and they last for years. Most of these initiatives we have put in place years ago, and they still hold good, and we practice them globally. We also focus on a higher employee retention, an enhanced external corporate brand, and a workforce that generates a wider range of ideas and solutions. I will now talk in detail about diversity and inclusion in the focus areas for us at Oracle. To drive insight and accountability with data, achieving where we want to go, more diverse and inclusive culture starts with understanding where we are, to recruit with an intention on diversity, being intentionally inclusive in how we attract, connect with, and hire employees right from the beginning, helps us benefit from the increased innovation that comes from many diverse points of view. Embed inclusion into talent development. We have a lot of initiatives for talent development at all levels in Oracle. As an innovation leader, consistently being able to turn good ideas into great ideas takes inclusive leadership and a commitment to developing our talent. No idea is a small idea. No idea is a useless idea. And any idea can be a game changer. Inspire an inclusive culture through community. Engaging with and being an active member of our community enriches our lives. Through shared value, mutual support, and respect, we enable each other to grow and make a positive difference. Invest in the future diversity of our industry, helping the next generation of women succeed and build the skills that they need to succeed in our technology ecosystem in a winning investment strategy. Does this D&I serve? One would be, of course, the most important, its workforce. Foster and enable a high-performing, engaged, diverse, and inclusive culture that seeks to develop and retain diverse talent. Creating an environment where people can be who they are and that values their unique talents and perspectives gives employees more reason to want to stay. Retaining employees, I think, is the first and most important activities that any company should adhere to. Second would be Oracle leaders. Provide Oracle leaders with the tools and resources to proactively foster and sustain a diverse and inclusive environment that drives employee engagement and innovation. Leaders who foster inclusive environments build more effective teams, boost employee engagement, and improve organizational performances. Customers and partners, of course. When you have a business, you have customers as well. Our customers and partners are wonderfully diverse. It's important that they see themselves reflected in the Oracle that they engage with. The more diverse we are as an organization, the better positioned we are to meet the needs of a diverse customer base. Execution on diversity and inclusion can be done in 4 ways. There are 4 slabs to it. Through a variety of people and programs, which I think most of our companies have in abundance. Increase representation Retention, like I said, human capital is the most important here, and strengthen our culture. The how, people driving diversity and inclusion. We have the Executive Diversity Council, we have the global D&I teams, we have the employee resource groups, ERGs, the Oracle Women Leaderships, which we call OWL, OWL, and the Oracle Diversity Ambassadors Program, the ODAP. I'll just briefly touch on each one of them. So this was launched in January 2021 by our global CEO, Safra Katz. And she, I'm so proud to be working in a company which is led by a woman, achiever, Ms. Safra Katz. Goal of engaging senior leaders and executives to identify and spearhead diversity and inclusion initiatives within Oracle. Global D&I teams engage globally with employees on D&I and work closely with line of businesses and leaders, providing enterprise and insight with diversity data to develop action plans that address challenges and leverage opportunities to improve representation and inclusivity within the organization. This is a very popular program which we have at Oracle, which is called the Oracle Women's Leadership, OWL. It's a mission to develop, engage, and empower current and future generations of women leaders at Oracle. OWL is guided by an executive steering committee and led by a core team and over 200 community leaders across the globe. OWL has over 100 communities that recognize the value of networking, mentoring, lifelong learning, and paying it forward. We have the ODAP, which is the Oracle Diversity Ambassadors Program. It's a community of employees that take an active role within their work groups to influence an inclusive cultural landscape by promoting awareness of multiculturalism and equality within their recruiting initiatives. ODAP was also created for more representation in interviews and conferences and events. How do we drive these programs? So we have, just as I'd spoken, we have the OWL, the Oracle Women Leadership Program. We also have programs such as Emerging Leader Summit and Women in Tech Summit, localized developments and participation, which is hosted by 100+ Oracle Women Leadership Program communities. We also have the Differently Abled Inclusion Program, the Disability Program, where abilities matter. Our commitment to foster an inclusive environment in which all employees feel valued and respected is reflected in our effort to attract, hire, support, and retain qualified individuals with disabilities. Programs also include interpreter services for the differently abled, reasonable accommodations, learning and development to enhance disability confidence, and an annual accessibility conference hosted at our HQ. We also have the Gen O, the Generation Oracle, focuses on identifying and advancing early in career and return to work talent. Is this better? Okay, Gen O delivers learning, continuous development, and clear, accessible career paths while offering the opportunity to influence and help stir our business into the future. I would also like to state here that, We also, in the US, we have veteran programs. We hire military personnel, which also is something that we do. We take it very seriously. I also spoke about the differently abled, and these practices are not recent to Oracle Corporation and Oracle in India. We have been doing this for years and years and years together, and we still follow them. So thank you for your time. For any additional information, please connect with me. And thank you for inviting me here. I'm very happy to be here in Goa. Thank you.
Thank you, Aslesha, for all that you shared with us, especially on, like the previous speaker, also expanding the definition and the way we should go ahead, including D&I in this discussion. I'm also glad that Oracle, being, of course, a multi-geographically located organization, and the challenges you must be facing with different cultures, which also you mentioned, like cultural differences maybe, and how you try and bring it all together to make a more cohesive workforce. Thank you very much for your time and engaging with us. Let's move on to the next speaker that we have, who is Swati Salgaonkar, the Deputy Chair of CII Western Region and the immediate past President of CII Goa. She's the President of VM Salgaonkar and Brothers. And Swati, over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Am I audible? Okay, great. So to all the esteemed speakers and office bearers on the dais, all the women entrepreneurs and leaders gathered here today, and especially to the men in the audience, I think I have to, sort of a special welcome, because we can't really talk about gender parity without your buy-in. So thank you. And I think the next time we do this workshop, I hope to see more male participation. So at the outset, I think, on behalf of CII, I'd like to thank the US consulate for collaborating with us in organizing this She and SME workshop series, which, as you all know, aims at creating a sustained dialogue towards promoting workplace diversity and inclusion. And I would also like to especially congratulate IWN Goa for taking this initiative forward in the state to support SMEs in developing policies and projects that can attract and retain female employees. And I'm sure that today's initiative will provide an important platform for women such as yourselves in business to engage in a fruitful exchange of best practices and really learn from each other as you move ahead. There's a lot of talk of India becoming a $5 trillion economy, and I don't think that's really possible. And if we don't have the participation of half, our population as contributing members of our workforce. And equal opportunities and inclusion of women really needs to become a mainstream agenda in India. It cannot remain something theoretical or something that gets talked about but not, implemented in practice. And India is lagging behind in several aspects as far as, female participation in the formal workforce and leadership positions is concerned. And I think what we really need to look at is changing our mindset and looking at inclusivity in a very holistic manner. It can't be a piecemeal approach. If we have any hope of remaining competitive on a global level, we really have to think about how we look at diversity and inclusion across the board. And advancing gender parity, it's something that extends beyond just policy compliance. It involves actively shaping an environment where women have equal opportunities for success. So this requires us to examine and adjust our organizational structures and practices and really try and remove obstacles to women's advancement. So introducing tailored mentorship programs for women, conducting regular training on gender sensitivity are key steps in bridging leadership gaps and really looking at nurturing an inclusive workplace culture. Moreover, I think, setting measurable targets for gender parity is instrumental in achieving a balanced and equitable workforce as well. And empowering women is not just a moral imperative, but it's, I think, also a key success driver in businesses. So there are plenty of studies that indicate that teams with diverse gender representation are more innovative and profitable. So if, empowering women involves offering them professional development opportunities, access to mentorship and network, and platforms where their contributions are really valued and heard. And by fostering an environment that encourages women to, take on challenges and advance in their careers, I think we enhance their personal growth and enrich our businesses as well with, diverse insights and skills. So if you're not going to do it, for all the right reasons, at least do it for, the reasons of profit, and kind of increasing your bottom line. And I think another aspect we need to keep in mind is that building trust in our organization really begins with inclusivity. So trust is not merely about opening the doors to everyone, but really ensuring that once they're inside, everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed. So in terms of implementing inclusive policies, whether it's flexible working hours, recognize, and respect our employees' diverse life commitments. This approach really deepens their trust in the organization, makes them feel, cared for, and that then translates into tangible benefits like higher job satisfaction, better retention rates, and improved business performance. I think all of us know, attracting talent and training talent and retaining talent it's time consuming, it's expensive. So if you can really make women feel, that they belong, I think, that goes a long way as well. And building trust also extends beyond our internal organization to our relationships with, stakeholders in the marketplace, our customers. So transparent and, consistent gender inclusive policies not only foster a better work environment internally, but they also send a very strong message about, your organization's integrity and commitment to values. And this in turn then, enhances your competitive advantage by attracting talent and then building a very loyal customer base. I think the other key principle that we need to look at in the workplace is empathy. And it's something that organizations really need to recognize. So it involves, understanding and actively addressing the unique challenges women face. So empathy is not the same as sympathy. It's, I don't think women need, you to feel bad for them, but just a kind of better understanding of what they're going through. And, for instance, empathetic leadership might include introducing mentorship programs, like I mentioned, creating support networks, or even reevaluating recruitment to eliminate biases, how you advertise, how your interview process works. And this approach fosters a culture where women really feel valued and supported and encourage, their personal and professional growth. And the empathetic approach should also encompass understanding the needs and preferences of female customers. I think that leads to more inclusive products and services, and that in turn broadens, your market reach and fosters innovation as well. So I think, constantly looking at women, not just within your organization, but in terms of other stakeholders externally as well. And finally, I think, applying logical decision making and creating gender inclusive business models. So rely on data and proven strategies. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. As we've seen from our speakers before, there are plenty of examples out there. Most companies, large companies especially, are very happy to share all this information on their websites. So I think that's a great resource to use as well. And learning from the best practices of HR leaders in various contexts, I think really helps us implement such strategies. So if you set clear goals for gender inclusivity and then systematically measure that progress, I think that ensures that, your approach is result oriented and, kind of very grounded, and it's not something that becomes, again, very, very theoretical. Coming to CII, so at the Western region, we believe very strongly in carrying forward the agenda of women empowerment in industry. And we've been working very closely with our member companies to strengthen women's roles and participation in the economic sphere, but at the community at large as well. So at present, some of our key focus areas include gender equality at the workplace, prevention of sexual harassment at the workplace, and women empowerment at a community level. And we recently launched, in fact, this was in August, we recently launched the Emerging Women Leaders Program. So this is a residential leadership training program aimed at fostering professional growth and developing a strong network of young women leaders for the future. And I strongly encourage all of you, we've completed our first cohort, but next year I look forward to having participation from many of you from Goa as well. And the CII Secretariat would be happy to share more information on the program and how you can apply to this. And I'll end with saying, let's bear in mind that our endeavor today is not just about revising policies or, achieving targets. I think it's about shaping a future where every woman in our organization can realize her full potential, thereby, creating a ripple effect that extends beyond our individual businesses to the broader fabric of society at large. So I'll just end with thanking you all for your presence and your participation. And let's all make a commitment to embark on this journey with an open mind and a collective vision, as striving towards a future that's not only more inclusive, but fundamentally equitable for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Swati, for whatever you shared with us. I'm sure all of us appreciate that you also broadened the discussion to include very necessary talks on trust and empathy, and of course, how do you expand this conversation to include not just the people you have employed, but also the larger stakeholder landscape, including your female customers. And I very much loved how practical you were, and when you said that if not for anything else, and at least to increase profits, we should definitely see that how we can make our workplaces more safer, more comfortable, more gender inclusive, and not just only for gender. And like the other speakers have also said, to include diversity and inclusion in all segments of society, which you also touched upon. Thankful to you for also sharing light on some of the CII initiatives which you and your team are taking ahead on the Western region and the rest of India as well, especially like the Emerging Women Leaders Program, which thank you for letting us know. It's like a very encouraging program for emerging women leaders, residential program. So anybody would like to take part of it and participate, we will be very happy to like foster and help you facilitate that. So with this, actually we have only kind of touched the tip of the iceberg, if I might so say, and we have all our esteemed speakers here with the diverse experiences that they've shared with us, and now we really have the floor open for any question and answer, any discussions, any brainstorming, something just like triggered your mind. It doesn't necessarily have to be a question and answer. It could be something that you want to share with all of us, because really that is what this whole group is all about. So yes, over to you. Anyone would like to bell the cat first? Yes, Shrimi.
Hello, everyone.
Here. Can anybody do anything? This is all the women who will always say at every session I've attended, because we don't wear blazers, like not all of us, some of us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shrimi Panandikar, representing my company Silverline World, based in Margao, Goa. The moment Pratiksha ma'am started her speech, and she said so many things about mindset. My business, my career started as a manufacturer of signages, so it was almost 15 years back, and wherever I go, whichever site I go, I am the only lady there working with all men. So many a times I would like to share this. We are changing our mindset, but in various such site works, especially when I go, with due respect to all men, there are many men there who have not changed their mindset. They cannot take this, that a woman is coming on sites and working with them. Although we give them respect, but the respect what we are supposed to get, we don't get. And I've experienced this 2-3 times, where the lower staff harasses us in different ways. It is like a mental abuse in different way, because they just want to point out faults in what we do. So when it comes to mindset, I decided that instead of changing others' mindset, I change my mindset and bring a change by keeping myself calm at that point and doing my work, whatever is required as per the specifications, doing the best. And I also have adopted this policy. This is for myself, my company. Although it is a small SME, but still I've adopted that. The moment I feel that I experience this type of, this kind of gender, whatever inequality, I don't work with that company. I mean, I don't run behind that company to get the orders. So that is what little mindset I've changed, because it disturbs my mind to work in such a company, work with a company which has this type of attitude. It becomes very difficult because I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting my efforts, and I'm also wasting my money, because there are high chances that I lose money in this process, although there is no fault of my team or myself. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Shrimi. I'm sure it was a very brave decision. So, Ashlesha, would you like to share something on this?
My name is Shrimi Panandikar.
Srini, hi Srini.
Shrimi.
Shini.
Shrimi.
Shrimi. Lovely name. Okay. So firstly, I would like to congratulate you. A big round of applause. I would just like to state a line that if you want to go small, go with people. If you want to go long, go alone. And that's exactly what you've been doing. I guarantee you'll get all the success. These things are just in the mind, and you're doing very well. You're going very strong, and the world is changing in our favor. And I'm sure the going will be fantastic. Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to? Sure, we'll get a mic to you, please. You too? Okay.
Good evening, dignitaries on the dais, and women entrepreneurs and women managers here. When I entered, I was worried whether this is a woman-only program.
Just like introduce yourself, like in a one line.
I'm Rajesh Kumar, General Manager of a hotel, a subsidiary company of VM Salgokar Corporation, La Paz Gardens Private Limited. So this program, She and Small and Medium Enterprises, it's a wonderful takeaway from large corporate organizations. What I would like to emphasize from the learnings of this session, most of the corporates, whoever is given the presentation and various companies here, most of your service providers are SME, if you may agree. Your vendors, your service providers, and they should be the one who should be inclusive in your training program and awareness. And it has to reach that masses, because the entire session is about SME. And women entrepreneurs, how far they are able to manage this and take it abroad. And most importantly, what is that I have contributed is I speak to children in school level whenever we get an opportunity. And whenever we are having a recruitment, we see to that we recruit them career path, whatever already dignitaries have spoken. Most importantly, we address it to our own gentlemen. The culture has to come from within us, from our home. Yes. Women are not weak. First of all, women sitting here, you have to accept our daughters, our sisters, our wives. For me, for my wife, am I accepting this gender equality at my home is my biggest question, which I have to ask myself, and which I practice, and I ensure that when I speak to my colleagues and my departmental heads in a pet talk, and also officially when we speak about gender inclusive hiring program and facilities required for women, it is emphasized, and the change has to come from your own home first right now. And what you have to target is, please see to that this awareness program is very, very important to the grassroots level. That is, various corporates, you all have a CSR activity. Please address it as an education program. When we speak to children, what goes in the mind is very, very important, because right now, after our colleague has gone through a harassment struggle, first of all, the session itself is evident, not many men have come. Moment the topic SHE and SME, all women managers go to this session. Yeah. That is a mindset, but it is okay. But I have chosen to come here. That starts from how you address it to your own men at home and men at work. And India is not US, or neither it is a Europe country. We have a specific religion specific issues and also cultural specific issues. Women are the most comfortable in India, because when we speak about Goa, we are in India. And most important thing is, Certain people are gifted. There are 1 lakh more women in Goa who are voiceless, who are not part of this discussion. It is only possible that how you make sure that at the end of the day, after this session is over, when you go get back to your normal life, till an S session is happening, you should come out proud with stories and commitment. What is that we have done to bring this session? Please address these issues very importantly to your vendors and service providers. That is my one recommendation to this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh, and thanks firstly for attending this function. That makes us feel very good. Taking off from what you said about home, which is something that Pratiksha also mentioned. So Pratiksha, would you like to add something to that?
So I don't know if Rajesh was there while I started my talk, but this whole change in mindset is what I mentioned in my speech, that we need to start from home first. If we are sitting here today and discussing about bringing about the change, but I think we should start with ourselves first, and that whole concept at home of segregating task as per your gender, I think from there we should need to begin, because we've grown in a Indian society, and we have to accept that there are certain because of the culture and the other values that are inculcated in us, it's by default we know that ladies are supposed to do a particular chore or a task, and men are supposed to do something else. I think we can't change what has happened in the past and what the generations earlier have done, but I think we can now start training and inculcating the values in our kids, in the next generation that is coming up, and start with this inclusive environment and atmosphere even at home. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Nimisha Saraswat. I agree with Pratiksha. She's already said half of what I wanted to say. This workshop was very helpful for all of us. There's no doubt about it. But can we have some more workshops which are actually trying to focus like how we are trying to focus with Don Bosco Engineering College, where we've got 15, 17 students as a chapter with us enrolled for 3 to 4 years. And we can have more workshops for these young women students, professional students who are coming up, and try to tell them that how to tackle these situations, because these situations will keep arising, as we know that the gap is pretty long and it's going to take more and more years to maybe reduce this gap with something. But we should have more interactive such sessions, and we should also try to focus and include these young girls students, the ladies who are actually after 4 years or 3 years after completing their professional courses will step into the corporate life or the business life, or would become some entrepreneur. So at least they are prepared that yes, how do we have to tackle these situations, and how do we keep a stand ourselves, so that we are not left behind, and we can have a word wherever we want, and we always get into included in this thing. So that's one just small suggestion I wanted to give.
Yeah. Thanks, Nimisha. Nimisha is the vice chair of IWIN Goa, and what she touched upon is that one of the initiatives which we do at IWIN is not just for the current working women corporate professional, whether it's an entrepreneur or a manager or somebody who's new in the workspace. We run a student chapter for girls at the Don Bosco College of Engineering. The intent of that was that the girls are sensitized and they're aware of a few things before they become, or before they are there in the workforce or are available to give their services. So sure, well taken that we should have more sessions, not only for ourselves, but for the next generation, so that like I think Rajesh mentioned, we can't change the past, but we can of course make a brand new beginning from where we are. Anyone else would like to say something?
Yeah, one question.
Yes, Ekta, sure, you can introduce and say whatever.
Hi, good evening everyone. I'm Ekta Agarwal. an academician turned to an entrepreneur. So I'd like to add a point to what ma'am just said here. So yeah, I think it's really very, very important that we start grooming our women right before they move out of college. So since I was in academics for at least 2 decades, the CII could collaborate with the women's cell in all the colleges. All colleges have a mandatory women's cell. They also have an entrepreneurship cell. So I think if CII could network with the colleges and connect to the women's cell and the entrepreneurship cell, I think we could, drive this change right from the grassroots, as the gentleman earlier addressed. So this is just a point to add on to what ma'am just mentioned. But I have a point here, a question here rather, for Ms. Pallavi. The question here is, can we think of this is related to performance appraisals when we're talking about, can we think of a standard rubrics when we are talking about performance appraisal to evaluate the performance of both men and women equally? Could there be some kind of a standard rubrics there?
Thank you so much, Ekta, for this question. So I think you've touched upon the most controversial topic in HR.
I thought as much because we
appraisal.
have it in academics. So I was wondering, why not in the corporates?
Oh, of course, of course. So performance appraisals are part of every organization, and I think it's a pain point. Let's be honest, right? It creates more pain than anything else. But on a serious note, when we're talking about performance standards, we are talking about very, very clear goals, right? So any appraisal system should be on the basis of clear, SMART goals, as you call them. So SMART goals are smart, whether it's for a male, female, or any level, any grade, whatever it is. So I do believe that when we're talking about appraisals, the way that those goals get settled between the manager and the employee, because it's not going to be one-sided at any point of time. So those goals are decided, agreed, and the evaluations also are the same. So I wouldn't really see any differentiation from the perspective of goal setting and appraisal.
So
Go ahead.
If I could add
Go
here
ahead.
again, see now the metrics could be
Yeah.
qualitative or quantitative. So most of the times they are being evaluated quantitatively,
Absolutely.
not really qualitatively.
Hmm.
If you go to see women, we are the ones who are actually better at multitasking, better at,
Yeah.
preempting risks, or even, gauging the kind of risk factor in a particular project.
Absolutely.
Say.
Absolutely.
So don't you think there's a bias there?
There is a way. So we've recently introduced, not recently, this is our third year, I would say. So usually appraisals are like on the basis of just the goals and the KRAs or the OKRs, as you call them. But if you want to look at behavioral patterns, you can define what you call as competencies. So exactly what you said, multitasking, your competence, the decision-making ability, the communication, the team working, incorporate those parameters in the appraisal system so that you can also have a weight of both the aspects.
Absolutely.
So 50-50 weight. Very few organizations have started with this concept because it's easy to, rate something which is very quantitative. It is a little political to kind of look at behavioral patterns. We need to really evolve and educate managers to objectively rate and evaluate their teams on the basis of behaviors. But if you have a good balance of both, then you're doing a very holistic assessment of performance.
Yes, absolutely. I think some kind of peer review, a one-on-one session,
there
or
are ways,
a retro sessions or something like that.
There are 360 appraisals also which you can incorporate, which give you a whole holistic view. So these things help.
Can I give another question, ask another question? This is to Ms. Swati. Ma'am, you spoke about empathy. So there's a small challenge I'm facing. I run an IT company. So it's not a very big team. It's a team of 15 people, just 15 of us. So since I really think empathy is a very, very important factor, I put this in the forefront, and I was like, okay, if you guys are not feeling well or you have something back home, Ekta is never going to say no for it. I mean, so you can take a day off, you can, but what happens when eventually people start taking advantage of this factor? How do you kind of how do you deal with it, or how do you kind of put a limit to something like this?
Sure. So I think, I mean, it has to be, properly communicated that empathy is not a free pass. It can't be, you can't just say because my boss is empathetic towards my situation, I'm going to take advantage of it. It's the whole sort of don't mistake my kindness for weakness aspect of it. And I think, while we talk about empathy, it doesn't, preclude any of the other kind of normal business practices that you have in place. If you're going to have a performance appraisal, if you're going to have targets, all those have to be met. You can't say that today I wasn't feeling well, so I didn't meet my sales target for the day, or, tomorrow my in-laws had to be taken to the hospital, so I didn't do my work. I think empathy means that you can have flexible work hours. It doesn't mean that you don't, give the output that's expected of you. So I think that has to be very clearly communicated. So not just, I mean, it's one thing to be an empathetic, boss, but I think you have to also make it very clear that there is a very high level of expectation. And I'm assuming you yourself, if you take time off for personal work, you do make it up. So there's no reason why the rest of your team can't, be sort of expected to live up to those standards.
Thank you so much. And I think I get this point here. So the most important thing, I mean, the takeaway which I take from your suggestion here is that, yeah, they need to at least cover up the hours they've missed out. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Minnie Ribeiro. I had a question for perhaps any of the panelists. I was just curious, it's more curiosity actually. When you are talking about sort of initiating, best practices in inclusivity in your organization, especially for small organizations, do you generally find men in the organization resisting it, or do you find them more participative, or are they sort of more forthcoming? Of course, the gentleman here was an exception. He was certainly somebody who was extremely all for it. So I'm just curious to know how it works with the organizations that you work in. Perhaps not the very big ones, but yes, I'm just curious about the SMEs.
I'm just the first one to answer this. I mean, in my organization, the men are very forthcoming, willing to help, I mean, I've never got a feeling that there's been any, that I'm being given a different feel or, thing like that. We are all professionals. We are looked at that way. We perform that way. And just to add to what Swati said in support of your question, is that, it's like an Olympic track. Some run fast, some run slow, but everybody has to finish the finishing line. Mm-hmm. So having said that, if people want to go slow on their work, they will reach the finishing line much later. People who want to work, and not use any excuses, I guess, they finish the finishing line earlier, achieve higher success. So this is what my take on it. But most of the corporations, I think the men and women are very, very comfortable working. It's all goal-oriented. It's the work that matters. It's how you perform at your work, how you manage your skills. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I say something? Rather stand because I would feel better. My introduction would be, I am Anita Sinha's husband here. And coming to a group like this or a workshop like this, where I think Rajesh and one or two more guys and me, I wasn't sure whether I came to the right place or, whether the topic was well understood by me. But I'm here because my wife invited me to come for this program. And when I read about the topic that we're talking of gender inclusiveness at workplace, something that possibly I would be able to reply to Ribeiro ma'am, right? I have been running an enterprise from 96, which is into taxation and finance at Vasco. And right from the beginning, it has been a small organization because these are not kind of enterprises which run too, they're not too staff oriented. They're more of computers and of course, staff driving computers. So for some reason or the other, all my staff have always been women only. Okay. And I have, it started with just one girl. When I started at small, I just had one staff. But then as it grew, they only grew with women staff. And what my experience would have been, on different ways. Talking of commitment of time, trying to be punctual. I never had issues of, they're coming late. I never had issues of they taking leave when it's not really a need. Talking of empathy there. It was like, as I gave them the space that this is your organization. And if you are going to grow, I am going to get in more business. And that's going to be more, employees around here. It's a give and take everywhere. But cutting the whole thing small, our complex was at a place, my office was at a place in Vasco, if anybody's around here. My office is in Kharewad. Kharewad is not a very safe place, or at least not considered safe. And my office complex had about 80 offices and 60 flats. It's, I think, even till today, the biggest complex of Vasco. Now, when you're talking of 80 offices, and I'm having, 2 offices there, I'm talking of from 1996. One thing which I got done in our complex was we immediately had 2 wings separate for washrooms. We had an absolute separate washroom for ladies. This was the first in any commercial complex I'm talking of. You can imagine how early. Because I wanted to make sure that my staff don't feel deprived of any facilities that they would need going back home. The other thing that we got done, and I emphasized upon the committee, was putting cameras. We had got CCTV cameras right across the entire complex, 5 entrances, 80 offices. We had about 12 CCTV cameras running now for more than 12 years. So this was again to, give them the sense of security, give their family a sense of security that, look, your family member is safe at work, at office, coming to office, until leaving the complex. Beyond that, well, we can, have such kind of workshops and ensure that the mindset changes. But again, another small thing, we are in Goa, I think, very lucky on this part. Goa has been quite gender inclusive in every aspect, in every field, in every business enterprises for a long, long time back. And I think that's where the big advantage to Goa by its cultural inclusiveness. But something small which started back home, this was something that dad had started. Mom has been a very highly qualified lady, but she chose to stay at home. She had a lot of work options in Goa when she got married and came here. But she chose to be a housewife. We got those benefits of a very qualified mom as a mom at home. So whenever any topic was discussed at home, we had a good amount of intellect coming in from dad and mom, and it was me and my sister. Never right from childhood was there anything not, or when told to sister that, no, you are not supposed to do this. Or, this is not for girls or nothing like this. It was you decide your field, you do your studies, you do your sports, you do your extracurricular, you excel in whatever you feel you have to. Finally, she ended up being the, what do you call it, the school girl, or what do you call it? The head girl. We didn't have this concept at this year, but she was the head girl of the school when she passed off. She was the board ranker there. She was better than me in every aspect, possibly even today. And women are better. I think it's just easier, and I think Rajesh would agree there, and we all should. The faster we agree, the better it is that women are better. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Piyush.
That it begins at home.
Do you want to add to that? No, I just, do you want to add to what is saying?
To it, but I would like to make a point. Yeah, can I add?
No, I just
Do I
wanted
have
to
time?
actually kind of appreciate Piyush for all those little things that he said that he's been doing, like from
You can
1996.
appreciate. After that, I can.
Oh, all right. Sure. I'm sorry.
You can go on. Oh, Sujai. Okay.
Yeah.
So my name is Dr. Lakshmi Bharne, and I had my practice for 20 years, so I have a different experience about men and women as a doctor. But then I diverted into manufacturing my own medicines. My name of my company is Dvija Naturals Private Limited. So I make Ayurvedic medicines And after I started my manufacturing, it was a complete turnover, wherein I first would like to say that in last 2 years, I had never had a single meeting with women in the meeting room. I have been meeting men as distributors, as manufacturers, as retailers, in all or at all levels. There might be women there, but I haven't had a meeting with any women since then. Okay, what is my learning? Very quickly, I'd say, I know we are running out of time, but what I learned in these 2 years is that knowledge has no substitute. People are talking about biased, women biased, and how women are looked down upon. But if your knowledge is strong and if you are well versed with your subject, you stand up and they will have to listen to you. The second thing that I have learned as women, because we are now talking about what others should do to us, what is it that we should have? Learn how to take a no. When you are rejected of any contract, when men refuse you of something, learn to take it positively, learn to take it as a learning. So these are the two main solid things that I have learned in last 2 years. And you should also learn to say no properly and to say yes properly. And, make the men work for you. Take help from them. Be open about taking help. And I think the men that I have come across were all lovely. And you should know how to get the work done.
Yeah, I think finally, in the end, we're all individuals. And once that is established amongst ourselves, so it's not that women are better. I'm sorry, but that is not the thing that we are really aiming at. We are just wanting to be having the opportunities which are good enough for us as individuals. I think the more we keep on focusing on that, then we are going to get this gender equality. But if you're going to say that women are better in so many things, then please remember that we are going to get the backlash of it. I'm just saying it because I've seen it. The other thing to say yes and no, I think what women really hesitate is to ask. And what I really tell youngsters, men and women, is please ask. Because if you don't ask for that job, that raise, whatever, you will never get it. At the most, somebody will say no, but that's the thing in life, right? But if you never ask, it'll always be a no. Absolutely. Sure, Pallavi. Yes.
Okay. Hello, can you hear? Okay. So there was this I am a bank director in an urban cooperative bank for almost 18 years. And there was this national conference which was in Goa for urban cooperative banks, which I was registering and I had some problem. So I called up that person. First thing he said to me, "Madam, this is for urban cooperative bank directors." So I said, "What?" So I'm one. I said, "Oh, you are a director?" I said, "I mean, that is still the mentality of the people around here." So I'm a part of a lot of business organizations, committees, in corporations. So everywhere, either I am the only person or there is one more woman with me or another one, I could say 2 or 3. That is everywhere. Just now somebody said, Goa, there's no gender thing, gender bias or whatever. But if you see in committees in Goa, you are the only woman or there'll be another one or there'll be another one. Then there'll be 17 other men on the board. It is everywhere. Earlier, like Shrimi has said, no, I feel odd. Earlier, I used to feel odd, but now I'm totally thick-skinned. See, if you are good, you can show them that you are as good as them or not better. So it's okay. You don't need to bother about whether there are more men and you are the only one woman in the room. But basically, you just have to ignore it. It is all around. At least in India, see, there are reservations on board. There is one reservation for public companies. Now there are 2 or whatever. But we should go ahead. Even if we are the only women in the room, it's okay. You go ahead, speak, you do your work. That's it. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
With the continuation with Pallavi, and with due respect to the men in the room, I'm standing. Okay, I have a few points which are noted down. Yeah, I'll introduce myself. Yes, I'm Riya Patil Chandre. I'm a manufacturer of biodegradable organic sanitary napkins, very much in Goa. And the factory is 3 years old now.
So with this, I would like to address to Swati ma'am here. Charity begins from home. So we are IWN members, and we would like to have the women empowerment programs among us. So first the home, and then next level. We can go to the other, students and other entrepreneurs and all that. As the subject says, she and SME, I think we should eliminate that and say she SME. Because we are small micro entrepreneurs and we struggle a lot. We are talking about gender equality here. 17 years I have been in corporate field. I was recognized as an iron lady. Why? Because I was the only one in men's world, in the production department, in the purchase department, in logistic department with import exports. Where I used to go to the MPT level or Chennai ports to clear the robotic machines. So here, what I'm trying to say is gender equality doesn't matter when you are strong enough. The point here I mentioned is in men's world, we are only 30%. So we should ask why. Why 30%? With the strong ladies sitting over here, I don't think we deserve 30%. We deserve much more than that. Next is the industry. As Pallavi has correctly said, directors are, there are hardly any directors, women directors. I can say there are no directors at all. I am also in organization where GSI says GSI, GCI, where there are hardly any women directors. So ladies, strong ladies sitting over here, please take up. And that's what I would recommend and request as a SME, a small SME, to connect and support us for things. Thank you very much for this wonderful session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Ria.
One more thing I would like.
Shrimi, if it's not too much, because can I give it to the next person? We're going to meet again, so you can please continue. I'm really sorry about this. Sure. Yes. Can you give her a mic?
Hi, my name is Aarti. For me, what really struck was the mindset shift that Pratiksha spoke about. And when we talk about inclusivity, since it actually means including everyone, I think we need more of men's participations in any kind of workshops that we do. Because if we are aiming to change mindsets, then it has to be done both ways. It has to be women learning about their own power and men understanding, or even women for that matter, understanding that there are no gender-specific roles in today's day and age, at least. I'd like to touch upon this suggestion of reservations for women. There's just one thing that that struck me, that when we talk about reservations, we have to ensure that we don't sacrifice suitability for any particular role or job and skills at the altar of reservations. It's just something that struck me, that it can't be as simple as reservations, because there is always a pro and con for it. So I don't know if anybody else thinks it might work, but to me, I feel it would be a tough line to walk.
You can hear me? My name is Dimala Carvalho. I work for a manufacturing company in Verna. As being a lady, I would definitely want to be an equal opportunity employer. But in the manufacturing setup, we have a lot of limitations. We are able to achieve this in the administrative departments like your finance, IT, but it is very tough in manufacturing related departments. We have extremely great examples from people who are into IT companies. Okay, they are able to do that. But we have, especially in Goa, we have a lot of issues. In the sense, we work 24/7, all 3 shifts, all 7 days. But I cannot recruit any female in the night shifts. Recently, our laws had opened up, first time in 25 years. A pharma company has started having women in the night shift. It's a very good sign, but it's coming to a very lot of additional cost, which a lot of companies and a lot of MSMEs are not able to afford. So now here we have a lot of associations headed by females. We have a lot of entrepreneurs who are headed by females. So what I would urge you all is probably if you all could come together. The basic things we have is transportation. Public system after 8 o'clock is really non-existent in Goa. It's very difficult for a female to go home. Forget about night shift working. So we need to have very good system transportation with good security. So females feel safe to go home. Secondly, we have a lot of issues in workforce, especially at Verna, because we do not have a common crash. Some companies do have a crash because they can afford it, but a lot of MSMEs are not able to afford having a full-time attendant, following a lot of regulations that are required for a crash. It is actually a very good entrepreneurial opportunity for some of you all want to start it. But this needs some people to get together and start this. So here I would actually request the forum if you can come together and take these basic things, because this is actually going to help a lot of females across levels join the workforce. Thank you.
I mean, actually opened their eyes to, the nitty-gritties and actual working much beyond the policies. When you scratch the policies, realize some of it is just not practicable or workable. Sure.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Neena, Principal of Don Bosco College of Engineering, Goa. Yeah, I would like to share that I'm very happy that, the first CII IWN student chapter has been established in my institution, and it's running pretty well. My concern today is that not many, girl students take up engineering. And right from the time when I had joined engineering way back in 88, hardly the percentage of students girl students taking engineering was about maximum 2 to 3%. And over the years, it has just increased up to 20% right now. And that has been seen almost in all parts of the country. So I would like to know how, CII can help us to promote this awareness about the STEM education, especially in our state of Goa, especially for, the students of, say, 11, 12 standards when they are about to think about their career. So I would put up this question to the CII.
Yeah. So it kind of continues from what Nirmala said, and the nitty-gritties of what finally boils down to why there are lesser women in the workplace and why not all women find it comfortable. So honestly, CII and IWIN and YI together, we do a lot of the sessions like this, or like you said, we have this student chapter in your institute. So that we hope is going to be some sort of a step ahead. And of course, we should do a lot more engagement, awareness, education, all those things for the newer generation who are studying. But it also dovetails with what you want from your life and where you want it to go and what, like society. So it's a really a larger equation and larger conversation we should have. So hopefully we will get there sooner or later. Maybe we will, like Nirmala said, the government has opened up I think 24-hour working for women. So some things like that sooner or later, as society becomes more progressive in our thinking and we have more infra, and post-COVID, we have realized that a lot of things can be done remotely and so on and so forth. Hopefully with the, what shall I say, with the match of technology and societal mindsets and governmental policies, very important. We hope to do much better than hopefully what we are at right now. Thank you. Yes, please. Time for a few more, maybe 2 more questions, because I'm very hungry. I'm so surprised no one else is.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Deepam Yogi. I run a HR advisory firm. So I want to steer the conversation a little towards what we can do for ourselves. So most women who are successful, when I ask them that, how did you get there? So they say, I just didn't let anything stop me, and I just worked a little more harder. And we consult with a lot of male entrepreneurs. A lot of SMEs are run by men. They also start businesses, and far more than women. Their intentions are in place. They want to, be inclusive, be diverse. But then they say that there are some things that women are not able to do. They want to promote them to a leadership role, but they're like, but this woman can't have a difficult conversation. She can't reprimand someone. So my question, and any of you can answer, is what skills do you want women to focus on? What do we develop in ourselves so we equip ourselves to reach the level, where we want to be?
Pallavi or Ashlesha? Would you like to take that, Pallavi?
I can attempt. So I think, in my opinion, and maybe there would be additions over here, when we're talking about men or women, I mean, finally, it boils down to capability, right? So you need to have the capability, the skills, the knowledge. So let's assume all this is there. The essential ingredients are there. But above and beyond that, I think what will really matter for individuals, especially in entrepreneurship space, is the resilience or the tenacity. So people really need to think, and I'm saying people because it really applies for both men and women. But if you are looking at breaking the glass ceiling, making sure that you are there and you really hit the goals that you want to, you just need to be resilient about it. So you'll face obstacles, you'll face difficulties. Don't give up, keep trying, and keep your chin up. That's all. It's pretty simple.
That's what most women end up doing. But if I had to maybe take back, say, okay, these are 3 skills, Deepam, you need to develop, so that you can tomorrow from here reach here. What would you advise me?
I'd add more core things: communication, stakeholder management. These are 2 from me. I don't have a third one. That's a big one, because the way that you're able to cope in your community and with your workplace and the people that you're concerned with, that really matters. And communication is just compulsory.
Yeah, we have time for just one more question or one more insight.
I think
we are
I'm
going to
just-
meet all again. So, I mean, we are just here.
Very hungry.
Please don't go. Yes, Ashlesha, sure.
So just to answer very briefly, I would say, of course, you have all the skills and which you mentioned, but the hunger in your belly. How much is the hunger in your belly to achieve whatever you have set to achieve? And I think you'll pick up the skills accordingly and you'll behave accordingly to ensure that you are successful. The hunger in your belly.
Can we have a mic there with you? Do you have a mic, Kairu? Yeah. And then I think that should be the last one.
Good evening, ladies. My name is Kairu Andani Kaute from Smart Investments. I have been handling financial planning, life insurance for the last 32 years. When I entered in this field, there were men around, men in the field, men doing the financial planning, because no woman did her own money management. She hid money below in some small clothing, and that's all. But she never went into the bank. She didn't know financial planning. She didn't do her tax planning. So I was in the most difficult profession in the world. And I think I did fairly well. I have 35 staff, out of which 21 are women. And I have so many women sitting in this room who have supported me. So I think Goa is the best place if you want to work. It's safe and people are so wonderful. Nothing short of angels. I have no questions, but just to thank you and for having this program. And I just want one request is how we can take the next step ahead, higher, how we can grow higher from where we are. What can you give us in form of skills? That's all I seek from you. Thank you.
Time where I pitch, I win. You must join us.
Okay, thanks.
Sonia, can I say something, please? Just 2 minutes.
All right, sure, Rita.
Hi, I'm architect Rita Muri Joshi, and I've been practicing architecture for the last 35 years. Point 1. I come from a family of 6 sisters, one father, and he made sure that all the dogs in the house were male. So if you believe that you have the power, you can do anything. So it's not that women can't be technical. The whole Scorpio production is women. Think yourself and you can do it. And there's nothing like, oh, we were 3 people and there are men around. If you are empowered, you have the knowledge, you have the education. I work on sites which is totally male dominated. And I don't cow down. I know what I'm talking about. So ladies, all that I'm trying to say is believe in yourself and go for it. There is nothing that you have to be empowered. You just have to know it. You have the knowledge, you can go for it. Thank you.
Let me do a quick appreciation here for our esteemed speakers for not only coming here and spending this time with us, but for all the homework that you've done prior to bring to us the best practices that you can share, or the learning or the experiences that you're so comfortable and so honest about bringing to the fore and experiencing with us. A big thank you to all of you who have joined here. And we have a little feedback form, I think at the registration or somewhere, or it's probably already handed over. So that is where we say that where we can help you as CII, and if there is some particular interest area that triggers you and you would like us to work in that, then we'll be very happy to put our heads together and see how we can bring you the next offering. Let me just take 2 minutes or I think more to just tell you a little bit about what IWIN does here in Goa. So I'm Sonia, I'm the chair right now, and Dr. Nimisha is my co-chair, and Sheetal here was the chair, the immediate past chair, and we have a lot of other chairs like Rita and Parvish. They were all part of IWIN leadership in the previous